just joined. I saw another person join. We're going to start in a few moments. If you have a tzedakah box, we're going to start with tzedakah. Tzedakah mekarevet et hageulah. The Rebbe explains to children that because tzedakah is about thinking about someone else, then tzedakah also enhances Avat Israel. And in the merit of Avat Israel, we get the Geula. So this is why tzedakah brings the Geula. So Gedolat tzedakah shemekarevet et hageulah. I'm going to give tzedakah for all of us. If you have a tzedakah box at home, please give tzedakah with me for the strength of Israel, for the strength of our army, and for the Geula Shlema. Bimhera b'yameinu. Okay, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm very happy to see you all tonight. We're gonna we started a class that's called MyDialogues, and whenever we can, we're gonna try to post interviews through MyDialogues. And today we're starting with Sara Gita Soble. She's gonna join us in a few minutes. Chavi, can you make it a little bigger? We're gonna start with the capital of the Rebbe and the Rebbitzin, just to bring more strength to our class. You could say it with me. You can listen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Whoever just joined now. We gave tzedakah, and now we're going to start with the Rebbe's capital. Kuf Chaf Gimel, Shir HaMa'alot, Elecha Nasati Et Einai, היושבי בשמיים, הנה כעיני עבדים אל יד אדוניהם, כעיני שפחה אל יד גבירתה. כן עינינו אל אדוני אלוהינו עד שיחוננו. חננו אדוני חננו, כי רב שבענו בוז. רבת צבעה לה, נפשנו עלג, השעננים הבוז לגאי יונים. Now we're going to do the Rebbitzins capital, קוף כף ד', שיר המעלות לדוד, לולא אדוני שהיה לנו, יאמר נא ישראל. לולא אדוני שהיה לנו, בקום עלינו אדם. אזי חיים בלעונו, בחרות אפם בנו. אזי המים שטפונו, נחלה עבר על נפשנו. אזי עבר על נפשנו, המים הזידונים. ברוך אדוני שלא נתננו טרף לשניהם, נפשנו כציפור נמלטה מפח יוקשים, הפח נשבר ואנחנו נמלטנו. עזרנו בשם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ. Thank you, Chavi. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Do I see Gita with us? Yep, I see Gita here. Gita, do you see us? Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to start in a few moments with Sara Gita Soble.
Okay.
Hi,
Oops,
Gita. How are you?
You're welcome. 1 second.
No
Excuse
problem.
me.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. So I'll talk a little bit in the background while you fix your camera. So we're starting new sessions with a new project called MyDialogues. Chabad Learning Foundation is a foundation that spreads Jewish education for children, seniors, women, and in general. So we started a new project called MyDialogues, and Sara Gita Soble is our first guest. And we will do short interviews to get to know different people, what they do, how they spread Yiddishkeit, how their work enhances Jewish life. And hopefully we'll all get more educated, be introduced to many different things that can help us enhance our life, our happiness, and our well-being. And I'm very excited to have this class tonight. Ready, Gita?
Yes, thank you for having me.
So I'm just going to say one sentence about you, and you're going to say the rest.
Sure.
Sara Gita Soble is a very good friend. We met a few years ago when she was actually running relationship sessions, and I was just helping, but I was listening the whole time. And I noticed tremendous changes in the way I communicate with people, and I really felt so much more confident and happy. And I saw big changes in my immediate environment. So I felt like this was very, very special. And the remarks that people also gave about the class and about how it changed their own life at home was tremendous. So Gita is a wife and a mother to 10 children, and she is the founder of a company called Relationship. And what we are going to do today is we're going to ask Gita to introduce herself a little bit, tell us about her life, and what is Relationship.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a very special workshop. 2 or 3 years ago, I think, right? It was a few years ago. So tell me about myself. I started Relationship in 2019. I used to be a high school teacher. And as my students started getting married, started going out, a number of them started asking if I could teach them Kala classes. So we had developed these connected relationships, whatever, and that was just like a natural request, which was very special. So I started teaching Kala classes, and it naturally segued.
Gita, we can't hear you. Mute and unmute. I still can't hear you. Let's see. Try now. I'm wondering if it's my audio or can somebody unmute and tell me if they hear Gita?
No, I cannot hear anyone. No, I
Yeah.
hear you, but not Gita.
Okay. Gita, we're having some maybe log off and log back in. Oh, here. I see that it's connecting the audio now by you. So now it should work. Give it a minute. Try now. Now we should hear you, Gita, talk. No. Can't hear you. I suggest to log off and log back in. Sometimes it's just a connection issue.
What about now?
Yeah, good.
Now you can hear me. Now I
Yeah,
can't hear
yeah,
you.
Yeah. So interesting. Okay, but at least we can hear.
Oh no, now I really can't hear you. Let's see, 1 second.
Gita, use your phone.
Okay, let's see if I hear you now.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yay.
Perfect.
Technical stuff, not for us.
I know, I need a tech
Okay, you know
person.
what? Everything, kol hakavah letova, as they say. Now we have more people listening, so it's good. So you have
Okay.
to track back like a few sentences.
Okay. Okay, so I started off as a high school teacher. Loved teaching in Muncie, and as my students started coming of age, shidduchim, a number of them asked if I could teach them Kala classes. So this was before the official Kala teacher training, and there was just Kala mentors at the time through the office, the Tars Mishpacha office. So I started doing that. And then they started coming to me with relationship questions. And the truth is that they were asking the same questions that I had and that I was still trying to explore. So, whenever you're on the giving end, it's always more of an impetus to really find the answers. So it really started me in an exploration of what works, what does our Torah say, and how do we apply what the Torah says about relationships. So I segued into focusing more on the emotional connection and relationship elements. And as I developed the way that I was coaching people, women, what actually happened is that we veered from relationship discussion to deep inner work, because our relationship will reflect what's happening inside of me. And what's happening inside of me is also indicated in my relationship, so I can see what needs to be fixed inside of me by looking at what's going on in my relationship. And my relationship can only flourish if I really target and address what's going on inside of me.
That's amazing. So as you started, I guess, coaching these young women, let's go back for a second. The name Relationship, was that the name of the project from the beginning, or did it come up from this work of understanding that it's something that's happening inside of us and you have to kind of shift that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a cute question. No one's ever asked me that before. I actually used to call my group the Extraordinary Marriage Coaching, because we were focused on specifically marriage. And then, yes, as we developed, and I was like, that's not just what it is, because we're not just, although marriage is very important and central, but it's not only that. We deal with all different types of relationships, and all relationships come from that inner shift. So that ended up changing the name as well.
So when you do this relationship sessions, what happens? How do you discuss topics? How does change happen? Do you have some agenda that you come up with, or do women like share stories, or it's both? Can you like describe a little bit what happens when somebody comes to these sessions?
Yeah, sure. So in a one-on-one session, the woman comes with whatever's challenging her, their personal story. When it comes to a workshop, that I have, the lessons prepared, and it's more general, but in a one-on-one, yeah, it's targeted according to what she's feeling challenged with or where she wants to grow.
Now, let's develop this a little bit more into like where do you get like your methods, your information? Is it based on things that the Rebbe said about about relationships and about marriage? Is it based on things that you've learned? Like how do you gather like what you're basing your work on?
Yeah. So it's all Torah and Chassidus principles. It's actually cute the way that it came about, because initially, a lot of, not a lot, what I'm sharing is really coming from my own inner growth. Like I'm not asking others to do what I haven't gone through myself. And in fact, this was one of the catalysts that had me putting this, creating this as a company and as an approach, because I saw that the things that challenged me most in my relationship ended up being the things that were the biggest sources of growth, the biggest sources of inspiration for myself and others. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says about his incarceration, it's like you wouldn't ever ask for a challenge, but once you've gone through a challenge, you would never want to give up the gold that you acquired through it. So, and that's one of the foundations of the principles is hashgacha pratis, divine design. Like Hashem doesn't design our lives so that we should suffer. He designs our lives as a gift of and an opportunity and a love for us.
That's beautiful. Can you maybe go back like in your own, in the beginning of your married life and see like what was, I don't know if you're able to share that, but like to share one of the struggles that you had to overcome, and how one of these concepts that you teach today is what really helped you to change yourself from within, and you saw the effect in your house, in your relationship, in just everything around you.
Sure. So, okay, we could look at a couple. Let's say essential value, which is really integrating awareness that I have a chelek aleka. And we can take a look at also another one of them, which is trusting connection. Okay, so just pulling those couple out. So for, for myself, something that was very challenging was feelings of worthiness, okay, which is if I do well, if I'm accomplishing, if I feel that I'm, fulfilling my purpose, then I feel good. I feel happy. I feel successful. If I didn't feel that I was fulfilling my purpose and accomplishing, then I feel less than. I feel lost. I feel unworthy. I feel empty. And I can, share a memory of in my living room that time, five little kids under the age of 7, and just cleaning up yet again, and those overwhelming feelings of failure and emptiness, and uh, um, directionlessness, and just that worth missing, really missing. So this concept of essential value, of knowing that I have a chelek aleka, and that I'm worthy because I carry a part of Hashem inside of me. I mean, these are ideas that we know, but how do I integrate it so that when I'm in my living room cleaning up yet again, I can actually feel centered and secure and joyful? How do I access that inner security? And the way that it affects our relationships is immediate. So for example, without a sense of essential worth, that equilibrium that comes with really recognizing and connecting with my neshama, what's left for me is, okay, like we said before, it's that seesaw of if I feel accomplished, then I feel great. I feel successful. If I don't, then I don't feel great. And guess who I take that out on? Those around me. And the same thing is projected to them. If I feel my husband's successful, if I feel proud of him that day, then I'm nice. And if I feel he let me down in some way, then I'm not nice. So there's that both internally and in my relationship. If I'm evaluating myself or others by conditional values, by external values, then there's no security, not inside and not outside. So that's a huge piece. And one thing that I really bring to women is that when we have a breakthrough with really connecting to our essential value, and I have a process for it, it stays. So there's always levels we can connect deeper, but there's a certain equilibrium and security that is so it's such a relief. It's such a relief. And I would say also, Shelley, the other question you asked, the other principle, let's say trusting connection, something that I had such common relationship advice out there, which is, communicate what you need, share, like there's all different ways and systems of how to know what you need in your relationship and what love language talks to you. And in actuality, it feels so enlightening, but on the ground, how effective is it? Is it really getting me that connection I want? And I know this was something that, I hear it all the time. But with this principle, trusting connection, how much do you want me to get into it? Like, because
you know what, like as much as you can to make it very very personal, like with real like examples that can really we experience these things every single day and we don't realize, as I'm listening to you, I'm really realizing that this is a lot of like inner work. This is not just like, in the beginning I looked at it as skills, as like skills that you could learn to enhance communication, but this is much deeper than that. This is really digging inside of you to really like notice yourself and what triggers you and how you can look at it in a deeper way and kind of like connect yourself to Hashem and understand that this is that you're Hashem's child, and this is not just a mere situation that's happening to you. This is Hashgacha Pratis. So this is beautiful. As much as you can give like specific examples of how women really go through this every day, even things that you specifically, like, just like you said, you were in the living room and you were cleaning, that feeling in your head of how you felt, like as specific as that as you could get.
Sure. Yes, I had a woman call me once, and her request was basically, Sara Gita, can you teach me? I'm married to somebody who's not capable of connecting. Can you teach me how to manage that? Like how to navigate a relationship that the other person is just not capable of connecting. So I said to her, you called the wrong number, right? And, she was taken aback. And I said like this, I can teach you how to navigate, but what about if I teach you how to actually open up, how to approach your relationship from a completely different angle, where you can actually have thriving, vibrant connection? And so many women don't think it's possible because they've tried the conventional ways and it just hasn't worked. But it really is. So several months later, this was a very eager and willing woman. Not always does it take so fast, but several months later, she came back with, I can't believe I ever thought that he wasn't capable of connecting. And this is after many years of marriage. So that's something that I've experienced myself as well, like constantly trying to make the connection happen, pull the connection, and then discovering that actually, when I approach the connection from a place of already trusting connection, that connection will flourish. If I approach the connection, if I question it, if I come from a place of not trusting that the other person cares, like not having that foundation inside of me, then automatically the other person will feel attacked, misunderstood, and there's no way that connection can flourish in that scenario. Trying to think of a personal example. Okay, something that would always trip me up was if I was out with my husband and he would talk to somebody else, right? And that's a big one, like focus on me. We're connecting now, like pay attention to me. And that was, and it's a relatable, I hear this I hear this all the time as well. So one way that I would try to encourage him to connect is, I would explain to him why it meant so much to me, or I might pout or give a little cold shoulder till he'd notice what's wrong. Oh, well, you're supposed to be focusing just on me, all the tricks we have up our sleeves. And years, right? It's years of certain patterns being a sore point, and you're like, why won't he get it? And again, it takes us back to why Hashem designs our relationships the way he does. If our relationship was just as easy as me telling you what I needed and then you would come through, where's the growth in that? Right? I'm not becoming anything. I'm not reaching beyond myself, right? But once, when we're challenged in our relationships and we have to learn how to trust our connection at a time where it feels like, oh, it's missing, but instead I'm stepping back, I'm looking at the bigger picture, I'm looking at the larger commitment of this person to me, that's inner growth. There's grace, there's humility, there's gratitude, there's all these qualities that we can step into, powerful qualities that we step into.
So how did you handle what kind of change did you make? And did your husband feel that change right away, or did it take some time until he noticed?
Yeah, yeah. So, what type of change did I make? So simply, it's all inside of ourselves. The way Chassidus describes, in Hayom Yom Shvat, the Rebbe says, like, if have you ever felt somebody looking at you and you turned around, or were you ever admiring someone's outfit, right? And they turned around, what are you feeling? They didn't call your name. They're not even close to you. They didn't touch you. What are you feeling? You're feeling their focus. You're feeling their thoughts, the energy of their thoughts. So if our words travel on sound waves, our thoughts travel on brain waves. There's energy waves that we are emitting that actually make a difference. So our thoughts, our energy there's 3 modes of expression of our neshama, right? There's our thoughts, words, and actions. And thought is the garment that's closest to our neshama. So therefore it has a spiritual quality. You can't touch it. You can't box it. You can't stop it. You could cover my mouth to make me stop speaking, but you can't cover my brain to make me stop thinking, right? Our minds are constantly moving. So it has a spiritual quality, which means that the impact of thought is spiritual as well, which means that our thought travels. It can affect somebody that's not in proximity. And the way that Chassidus describes it is that it stimulates the core of another person's neshama. So when I change my experience of the other person, my perspective of the other person, my inner experience of what I believe to be going on in this relationship, it is definitely felt on the other side. So for me personally, yeah, it was a huge relief. It was a huge relief. And I remember the turning point of sitting in the car with my husband after a particular date and like just watching him schmooze with the taxi driver and noticing what a relief it was just to enjoy and not have that mean anything about our connection. If there was something I wanted to say, I'm free to speak to him, but there wasn't a pressure of this means that you are invested in our relationship. It doesn't. I can trust the connection. There's commitment on so many levels, and that just makes it so much easier and connecting for both of us.
That's interesting. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, when you made that shift in yourself and you're shifting the whole experience between you and your husband, I'm assuming it changed also things in the house. Did you feel that through this process of change within yourself and your relationship, that the children also were affected by this change? And like did this bring something into your home as well? I'm sure it did, but what kind of experience did it bring into your home?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole experience of living with these principles, the relationship is based on 13 Torah principles that I compiled. But our children are deeply affected by our shalom bias on so many levels. And well, children are still children and they come with their own, pakala. But my 8-year-old said to me the other day, it was so cute. She said to me, "Mommy, what do you do exactly?" And I told her, well, I help people, that have challenges or maybe shalom bias. And she says, like, what is shalom bias? So I told her, well, if you think about it, like a mommy and tati, how they get along, and sometimes just like you can fight with a sibling, sometimes mommy and tati have a hard time getting along. And she was like, that must be very rare. It's so easy for a mommy and tati to get along. And I'm like, Baruch Hashem, I'm so happy to hear that.
So this is the impression that she has, which is amazing because that's how it probably feels to her. Wow. So that really is remarkable because I don't, kids, you can see that today people do struggle with relationships and with communication, and it's affecting our homes and everyone's well-being. And it's really a relief to hear that there's really something that we can really do, and it really, it makes a difference. Can you maybe describe a little bit, like, how many, like, I can assume that this is like a few sessions, and when do you start seeing change? Do people report, like, after the first few sessions that they're already seeing change? Maybe you can just give us like an overlook of how it looks like when somebody starts relationship. What kind of, like, as it not as one-on-one, because I think one-on-one is probably gives a lot of attention to the person, so it's probably more work, like, meaning there's more time with them. But when you're doing it as a group and you're working on it with a few people, how many sessions do people take approximately? What is the length of the course?
Yeah. Okay, so it's so individual. It really is very individual how ready a person is, to hear, to experiment with the different ways of thinking and looking at very generic challenges. So it's very, very individual. I mean, I have a coach training course, which is a couple of years. It's a 2-year process, and even then it doesn't end. Like, we continue and follow up with classes, weekly classes, both for support and also just to explore different topics.
So this is for people who want to become coaches,
yeah,
to apply the method of relationship.
right.
Okay, so you have like the option of becoming a coach, and you have the option of also just going through the process itself.
Right. And then there's workshops. So like a community workshop has about 28 classes in total. But it's divided into bites, 6 to 8 week bites.
Very nice. And like, if somebody wants to create a group, you're open to that, like, to also do, like, let's just say I have 8 friends, and we want to have like we want to go through this process, and we want to have like 8 sessions. So you can customize something for such a group also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you like maybe give us like 1 or 2 examples that were really life-changing, that people came to you and said, you have to sit down and listen to this story. This really changed my life. Something that also, like, for you, doing this for so many years gave you a lot of nachas to just see that this wasn't just helping you. This is something that you created and has changed other people's lives.
Yeah. Baruch Hashem. It is really humbling to get those stories, and it's hard to pick out 1 or 2. But we definitely get that all the time. Okay, so I would say, in one scenario, the woman was actually not coming to work on her marriage. She was coming to work on her relationship with her parents. Something that had been, very painful and very, very closed off for many years. And I don't recall how she came about. Anyways, she reached out. So what was so beautiful several months later to hear how not only did her relationship with her parents shift, but things that she never heard her parents say to her before, all of a sudden were flowing. Her own experience, being near her parents instead of feeling numb or shut down, was open and connected, and just a completely different, dynamic around that relationship. So that could be, one story.
So it's basically like shifting everything around us. It's not just like shalom bayis. It really it reaches everywhere. It reaches like other relationships around us, and it's healing a lot of things that were untapped into, and it's beautiful. And I think that this is what the reason that I wanted to have this conversation with you, because of so many people reporting that this really made a tremendous difference in their life. And if you really take the time to do the work, you really see amazing changes and you become a happier, calmer person, which is amazing. And that in itself brings shalom bayis and happiness to the home.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I had another woman who called to work on a relationship with a child-in-law, daughter-in-law, and things had been going well, and then all of a sudden there was a sudden shift in their relationship, and she for nearly a year they were stuck in a like an impasse where she couldn't figure out what she had done wrong, like what happened. And she was trying to get information. Things just kept getting worse until this son and daughter-in-law that were, it was obviously it's her son, but it was also her grandchildren, and this whole relationship that was close, that was precious to her, was zero. Weren't coming, weren't speaking, weren't, if she tried to approach, was pushed back. Any messages, any apologies, nothing. There was like almost a total shutdown. And Baruch Hashem, we worked it through, and she sent me a screenshot of this beautiful conversation with her daughter-in-law, and the relationship is restored. I mean, that was I would say not everything is a one session. Happens to be this woman had come to classes. So she was like, she was in the mindset. She was very, very open to how I invited her to approach and process her own experience of her daughter-in-law inside of herself. Like there was a lot of willingness there. But yeah, so that was also just like such beautiful, who would have thought this year of intensity and disconnect could really, really be resolved. And our Torah has all the answers.
It's amazing because it seems like it really is a lot of inner work. So like basically what you're revealing to us is that a lot of these shalom bayis problems that people have, they really are like a reflection of something that's unresolved within ourselves. That once you start resolving it within yourself and understand what's really bothering you, where it's really coming from, what insecurity it's bringing up, or what experience, then once you resolve that within yourself, it automatically makes a change in the relationship, which is amazing.
Yeah. And Hashem designs us to be vulnerable in that way. Like we are, the way that we are, the way that Hashem has us go through challenges in order to get to a light that we wouldn't have access to without that particular challenge is also true of the negative belief systems and the childhood programming and all of those things that go into developing us, to bringing us to where we are right now with exactly the vulnerabilities and exactly the things that we struggle with, or the inner belief systems that we've created, or we've developed, is also very exact. Wow. So, and we think about it, it's inner work, but it's really the process of making our beings a mishkan for Hashem. Hashem says, I want to dwell in you. I want to dwell in you. I want to dwell in your heart. What does that mean? What does it mean Hashem wants to dwell in our heart? Like, are we supposed to start like singing hallelujah? Like, what does that mean? What it means is that Hashem wants us to align our inner world with his presence, with his reality. And that is how we make our inner beings a mishkan, a dwelling place for Hashem.
That's beautiful. Do you have, I'm like thinking, I'm like, you've done a lot until now with relationship. Is there any like future goals that you want to like tap into that you didn't yet? Any new ideas that are coming up that you think can enhance what you do and bring other... Hi, everyone.
Is that chili?
Good night.
Is that chili?
I think you can mute.
Yeah, we're gonna mute. We're muting everyone.
Wait. Yeah, so
Future goals. I'm sorry, we got interrupted a little bit, but like future, like anything new that you're thinking to bring in, maybe something you could share with us. I don't know if there is any, but I was just thinking, I'm like, you're probably always thinking and enhancing and changing and moving forward. I'm wondering what other elements you're bringing in soon.
yeah. So to the actual approach, there's always things to do to deepen it. I'm working on a book, that's a session. I have a couple that I'm working on right now. One is a comic strip that just to like put things out cute and easy digestible. And the other one is just like a, in-depth book. Yeah. And there's always, there's the more, each time I learn, there's always more to learn and there's always more to enhance and deepen for sure.
Does some of the work that the people do when they come to these workshops is like writing, role playing, like, or is it just like deep thinking about things and just changing the way you're approaching them? Is it a lot like what are some of the things that people do when they go through the process?
Right. So you're saying specifically in a workshop?
Yeah, like do people go home with homework? Do you have to journal? Do you have to what do you do to help this process happen?
Yeah. I mean, so there is homework, but it's self-motivated. There's no like
Can you give me like an example of like of a homework that somebody might have to do after a session? Like maybe one thing that they might have to do for the next time.
Right. Yeah, it would be practicing one of the things that we learned or journaling on something or perhaps asking themselves some of the questions that we discussed in class, like let's say we're looking at an essential value process, and some of the questions would be, what am I believing about myself? Like, how do I judge my worth? And then I would have them journal on those questions, like, what is is this true? Like, what is my belief? And is this true? Is this the truth of who I am? What is the truth of who I am? So there's like thinking and journaling or exercise, like take a phrase like trusting connection. If I take a scenario and if you choose, just play for a moment, like choose to trust the connection. How else would this occur to you? Like, how else would this scenario feel to you if you just chose to trust connection right now? So like there is definitely homework, but it's self-motivated. You're invited to share the next class, but there's no checking up on it. The more intense classes, there is follow through on the homework and things like that. But yeah.
It's amazing that everything goes back to that initial change that you made, because you were saying about your own example of how secure you felt. You were asking yourself if I were like secure in this relationship, that you started to see your husband interacting with other people from a more secure place, and that changed everything for you. So the same thing what you just said now, that feeling of security, if you've had that, what kind of change it would do for you in your own, how would you act differently? So a lot of it is working also, I think it looks like it's a lot of working on your security of understanding where you stand within yourself, which is really amazing. It sounds like a lot of personal work and a lot of positive change, which is amazing. I would love if anybody would want to ask questions also, that you can maybe unmute and ask your question, or if you don't feel comfortable asking the question, you can also write it down in the chat, and we can take this time that we have with Gita to answer these questions and maybe also deal with some scenarios that people are dealing with now and just see possible solutions. Does
Sure.
anybody want to share?
Type anonymously.
Gita, what are some of the
I have a
common-
question.
Oh, perfect.
Just a hypothetical question. I know everyone's working on everything, but if there was one principle that someone should work on immediately, which would you choose? Or is it specific to the situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's more specific to the situation. I mean, all the principles really go hand in hand. But yeah, start with essential value.
Gita, can you tell us list some of them for us, like maybe 4 or 5 of them so we have more?
Sure. So there's essential value, essential worth. There's divine design, which is believing that it's believing in the Yibishter, Achdus Hashem. There's trust and connection. There's the creating with our thoughts, words, intention. It's how our feelings develop, an understanding of how our feelings come about, and the power of our perspective and belief system. There's receiving, creating space and value. There's ownership, which is, taking responsibility for the quality of your life, your body, mind, heart, and soul. There's the power of shalom bayis, which is so key. Like we tend to marginalize it, but if you look at what Chassidus says, about the power of shalom, this is the only way that Hashem, this is what draws Hashem down into us. It's the only way that Hashem will rest among us. Hashem doesn't rest when there's a lack of shalom. And that's our objective here. There's also the Mashpia Makabel dynamic, which is how the specifically masculine and feminine energies interact with each other. And there's laws of nature that Hashem designed into the way that these two energies interact with each other. And let me see, I don't have a list in front of me, but that's a number.
I figured that's why I said just give us a few so we kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. Anybody else wants to ask something or put on a question? We don't have to say names, but you could feel free also to ask the questions, and it's a friendly panel. We're discussing it. Maybe somebody else has ideas also and wants to share. It's a nice panel to learn and grow.
Maybe they can send you questions like anonymously or with an email or a personal WhatsApp message, and I'm happy to weigh in a different way also.
We also discussed that I spoke earlier to Sara Gita, and she offered us also to give us a code. So if anybody from this panel will want to sign up, you'll get a discount code for the classes. So that's also a nice incentive. Okay, I see a question. Any tips or mind shifts that can help when you find yourself frustrated or annoyed at someone's behavior?
Yeah. Okay, so it's a little challenging to give tips because there is so much depth that needs to be put into this process that sometimes a tip will lose the depth and the real point of it. But first of all, we want to recognize that our experience of the other person's behavior is ours to own, which means nobody could make you feel a certain way. The reason we feel a certain way is because of the way that I have interpreted, or the way that I'm experiencing it based on my own perception, my own midas, my own level of awareness. An example that I often give is, imagine a husband comes home and brings his wife flowers, right? And the woman feels hurt. Okay, maybe she feels he's only bringing it because he because this is what he was taught to do. This is what men are told they should do for their wives. Maybe he doesn't really mean it. Maybe he didn't buy her the type of flowers that she liked. Maybe she preferred that he spend the money on something else that she really wanted and not on flowers. Whatever, imagine, right? Her experience of those flowers could be really aggravating versus, the husband coming home with flowers. And, or let's say, okay, so then the next week the husband doesn't come home with flowers. And again, it's that aggravated feeling of, wait, I do work so hard for the family, for Shabbos, and like, you're not even bringing me flowers, right? In other words, it's a cute little example of how our experience of what's happening out there, what someone else is doing or saying, is very much dependent on what I am thinking and what I am not just thinking, because the way that Chassidus describes our feelings is that there's 4 steps. There is our feelings is a product of our perspective. Our perspective is a product of our midas, and our midas are a product of the maturity and capacity of our awareness. So there's like a chain of what happens till I get to my feelings. So first and foremost tip, notice that whatever I'm feeling is actually an expression of me, my perspectives, my midas, my inner world, not really a reflection of the other. Once we get into that conversation, now we have where to go with our feelings, because feelings are a product. So if I can rewind and look at, well, what is my perspective here? What are the midas at play here? Is there an awareness here that I can open up to? That will actually change my feeling. I'll have a different feeling.
So basically, it's very hard to give a tip because basically we have to examine what is really it's triggering in us that's causing us to get frustrated, because the frustration itself is coming from the way we're perceiving it. So for somebody else, it might not be. So this is why it's hard. You have to really dig into the situation, like you said. So it's interesting. I really like this. I really like this approach to dealing with change and to bringing shalom bayis. It's amazing. Anybody else wants to ask a question? Oh, I see another one. How do you know if you're achieving shalom bayis? What are the identifying characteristics of shalom bayis?
Yeah, so how do I know if I have shalom bayis? Okay. I would ask that question, do you know what it feels like to have inner peace? Like, let's take it a step before. Do you know what it feels like to feel happy, contented, secure, and connected inside to yourself, to your preciousness, to Hashem? If that's what you're feeling in your relationship, then that's what we're aiming for. But if I'm wondering if you have that question, if perhaps first you want to explore, what does that feel like to have shalom inside of myself? Because that will be your marker to know when it's in your relationship.
That's interesting. Okay, so I guess we have to think about that. Anybody else wants to say anything? Add a question to the chat box. Take advantage of these moments, ladies.
Hard to
Gita,
think on the spot.
is there any anything that we didn't tap into that maybe, or another story or something meaningful that you can share with us that you've seen throughout your work? Oh, I see. How can it be it's only if there's 2 people in the relationship? How could it be only your issue if there's 2 people in the relationship?
Yeah, I love this question.
It's a good one.
This question. Yeah. So, for sure, there's 2 people in their relationship. Everybody's responsible for their own actions, right? But it really takes us back to our belief in Hashem, right? if I believe there's a power other than Hashem that is showing up for me in my life, then that leaves me vulnerable to others. But if I can deeply recognize that there is no thing that has any power over me, that can affect me in any way, other than Hashem himself, nobody has that power, then my experience of the challenges that that others bring is deeply personal. It's no longer about them and what they need to change. And if they would do this differently, then my life would be better. This is about my relationship with Hashem.
Can I not feel inner peace or anxiety, but feel peace with my husband? It happens to me a lot because I feel anxiety, but feel secure with my husband.
Okay, that's beautiful. Sounds like your husband is a safe space for you. Yeah. It's worthwhile to still explore, and gain that inner security because, being human beings, we are fallible, and sometimes relying on someone else for in order for me to feel secure, relying on someone else to make me secure, can be tricky. Like if they're not available one night or if they're in an off mood, perhaps. So it's definitely worthwhile to explore your chelek alika, and really integrate that deeply. But if your husband brings you a feeling of security, then that's so beautiful. Celebrate that.
It is very unique, very, very special. Anybody else has questions? Anybody else wants to share a question live? You can unmute if you want. Yeah, ask another question. Feel free. We have a few more minutes. For those of you who just logged on, we also recorded it on YouTube, so we'll be able to send the recording later. So wherever you got the link, just make sure that you're in touch with us and we'll post a recording so you can watch the moments that you missed. What's the work you did with the woman who came for a relationship with the parents or child? You remember when we mentioned a lady that came to you with working on the relationship with her parents?
Yeah. So there's what's the work? I mean, the work is was with these principles. With parents, there are specific, there's a specific angle there, which is that, oh, this is very involved. I don't know if I could boil it down to something short, but I would say it's all working with the principles. It's like if I take these principles, I can apply it to this relationship, I can apply it to that relationship, and then it just changes my inner experience. It changes the dynamic.
So basically, this woman did the inner work as she would do it if she had like Shalom Bayis problems, and just doing the inner work brought the connection with her parents to be better, and it just brought it back to life. That's what I understood from the story, which was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, even let's say using one of the principles of trust and connection, a big pain point for children can be feeling that the parent doesn't care, isn't invested, it wasn't there for them at key points in their childhood, it doesn't, and I would say again, doesn't care. really, or was just doing their job, or, yeah, missed certain cues where they needed them in a certain way and they didn't show up in that way. So there's a lot of unraveling to be done here, but some key points is trusting connection, which means, like, what would it be like to actually recognize that my experience was based on my perspective at the time as a child, right? Now I'm carrying that perspective with me now through, and I didn't have an option to think any differently than I did as a child. That's where I was at. That's where Hashem had me be at, so that I could, develop this specific challenge and vulnerabilities in my relationships, so that I could then resolve it by bringing Hashem into the picture. So, so recognizing that my experience was based on where my midos were, or based on where my awareness was at, and that awareness was pretty limited as a child. We had limited awareness. So we can bring awareness by looking at the stories that I'm holding on to that demonstrate that the parent didn't care about me. We can look at those stories and open up. Maybe there's another way of looking at that. Maybe there's another way of coming at it from a deeper, more truer perspective. And when we try that on, what would that open up for me? So the process, even simply just learning how to trust that a parent cares, learning how to trust that a parent is also human, right? And a parent is their vulnerabilities and your vulnerabilities, like, oftentimes will clash because that's the way Hashem so designed. But learning how to have grace and like a larger perspective for our parents, and trust that connection, and speaking to them from a place of knowing that they're already connected and were there for me, and recognizing all the ways that they were there for me. So it sounds simple as I'm saying it, but it's really not, because we hold on to, our experiences feel very much part of ourselves. But it's amazing to be able to experience our parents in a completely different way than we're used to. And it's so healing.
Wow. Maybe that's one of the projects. Okay, we have a few more questions. Somebody mentioned, can husbands ever be like the girls and validate like them as well? And then LOL.
Okay.
So that's nice. I don't know if you have an answer for that, Gita, from your work experience.
So what my experience has been, that my experience has been that when the Mashpia Makabel is flowing, that we can be surprised at how validating and empathetic our husbands can be. We'd have to learn their language. There's a different language. There's the masculine paradigm, there's a feminine paradigm. But once you learn, it's like, if you learn Spanish, you can actually understand and communicate with somebody in Spanish. If you don't know Spanish, it's gibberish. It means nothing to you. So there is a process of learning the masculine language, which feels very foreign, because we're women and our minds think like women. But once I learn their language, can I feel deeply validated by my husband? Absolutely. Just got to learn the language, and it's surprising it's often surprising once you do learn it.
Wow, sounds good. Okay, now another question that we got is, what would be the best tips to help feel more secure? There's so many things out there in the world that can make us lose trust and feel unsafe.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have to return to Echad, because 100%, if we base our security on what others do or say, In a relationship, there could be betrayal, there could be hurt, there could be all sorts of things that are painful, disappointments, lots of things. So we definitely learning how to, well, there's an integration process, but learning how to experience who I am at my core, like I shared in the beginning, that essential value, recognizing what that means. That there's three parts to it. There's the truth, the messaging that I'm telling myself. There's visualizations that we use, and then there's bridging the deeper messaging and the visualizations, bridging it to my actual experience. Like, how do I generate an experience of security in my body so that I respond, like I'm not triggered or thrown off balance when something challenging happens. So, but I can't give all those things on one foot. I apologize.
No, but listen, it's good advice. Somebody mentioned something very nice here. They said Shalom Bayis is a spiritual reality that can even be felt by guests. It's definitely felt by everyone, but definitely it's true. I'm wondering if this specific person actually got some comments from guests about it, and this is why she's also mentioning it, which is really nice when you hear from someone else saying, wow, it's so nice to be in your home. It feels so good. The feeling, like that they feel that Shalom Bayis within them, and they take it home and it affects their I specifically felt that many times in places that I was invited to, and then you go home with that feeling that, wow, this home was so special. You felt that the relationship in the house between the husband and the wife and the children just affected you so positively, and you're like, wow, I wish I could have that one day. It's very special. So talking about one day, so it was somebody asked, does this apply to the dating process? And if yes, then how? And then I'm thinking for the next level, could this be applied to teachers and students also?
Yeah, for sure. So there are certain things that if there's no commitment in the relationship, you can't fully do. For example, in a marriage, because there is commitment, so therefore, trust and connection is appropriate. Whereas if you're dating, trust and connection is not appropriate. There's no connection because there's no commitment. And same with being a teacher. When you're on the giving end, it's not a relationship that's between equals. So we have to, we're in the space of being there for the student and helping them develop. And it's not a mutual relationship in the same way. So the principles would also not apply this in that same, some of them would be different. But definitely could apply essential value if we see ourselves as a teacher, even as making mistakes, or our students having essential value. That is very powerful in being able to reach them, conveying that they're valuable regardless of what they accomplish or don't accomplish. And the other principles as well. But in dating also, there's many principles that apply. Yeah. And we have to be, for example, ownership, that's a big one with dating, which is, instead of trying to get into his head or in his skin, like, what does he feel about me? What is he thinking? Get into my own skin. What am I feeling? What do I think about him? Recognizing my assumptions, my belief patterns. A lot of times we can assume or interpret something, and it's not necessarily so. So being able to notice, like, oh, I just made an assumption here, instead of just automatically believing my assumption, would allow me to be open and discover maybe there's more to this person than what I just assumed. Maybe if I allow the relationship to develop, I'll discover something else entirely. So there's definitely a lot that can be applied.
Wow, that's amazing. I like the idea that you could actually see that there's a difference when you work with with married couples and compared to like teacher and student, and that there is concepts here that only work for a marriage because there are certain commitments here that are a little bit different. I like that this is very unique for that, which is beautiful. There's something here. There's another question that somebody posted. Is your program only for women, or are these sessions for men as well? It seems like the shift in the relationship is not so much between a husband and wife, but one is shifting from the relationship with oneself, which radiates out to all other relationships, thus creating shalom bayis.
Yeah. So I mean, I do work with couples, but I don't work one-on-one with men. I believe that's best done with one of their own kind for many reasons. But and the second thing. So in other words, we're focusing on women because we're women here, so we're doing our part.
I think that the main this is the second time this is coming up, is that like as the women are doing most of the inner work, and that's really affecting the whole relationship.
I don't necessarily see that as true. I mean, we're just doing we're just doing our part. Can I really judge someone else's inner work? It's not my capacity to really judge, but there is what we are doing is we're taking ownership over our lives, over what I'm contributing, over my own, inner world. And that is something only I can do for myself. I can't take someone else's cheshbon and nefesh. I can take my own.
What I'm hearing is that really you may be the one starting the inner work, but your own inner work also elicits your husband's inner work as well, because they're starting to see the shift, and they're seeing the consideration, and they're seeing that there's so they're doing it automatically, and it's that's what's making the change, and it's really work from both ends, but you're really maybe just starting it and eliciting more from the other side. That's how it feels like a little bit. Like it's not just the woman doing the work, but it may be the one who starts the shift.
Yeah, I mean, it could be either. Like the way it describes it in Chassidus, that the mashpia makabel could start from the mashpia, or it could start from the makabel. Happens to be that the makabel has the extra advantage to it, which is that when the makabel opens up their receptivity, if you think about like a teacher student, if the student is eager to learn, is super open and receptive, it will call out deeper kaiches within the teacher than they would have access to on their own. So it's an excellent teacher can walk into a classroom and have the class. When the students are receptive, that brings out even deeper kaiches within teacher. So in our relationships, if it happens to be that you're the one starting, kol hakavod. Acknowledge your courage, acknowledge your willingness, your humility to take those steps. But if it happens to be that he's starting, that's great too. Like, let's just start from wherever we're at is the best place to start from. And definitely our work does affect each other. So if you started and he reciprocates, great. And if you started and you reciprocate, that's great too.
Amazing. Okay, so this was amazing. Does anybody have any last question that they want to post or unmute and ask? One last question. Anybody? Sara, Gita, Soble, thank you so much for this amazing conversation, for all the information that you gave us. I would love to give out your information. Maybe you can, while we're going to watch a little video, I'm going to explain about it in a second. Maybe you can send me the information and then we'll post it on the chat. there's two things I want to end with. We're going to watch a little video. I was looking for a video today. I always like to show a video either of the Rebbe speaking about something of the topic that we're discussing, or ideas that the Rebbe gave people as advice. So I actually found a beautiful conversation with Sara Carmeli, who shared some of the advice that the Rebbe gave her in her relationship with her husband, which was very, very meaningful. And Sara Carmeli also does a lot of classes with us for Tarat HaMishpacha, so I thought it's very apropos that we put that conversation. It's a very short video, so we can watch it before we end the class. And then I would also like to send a pun to the Rebbe for everyone's name, with everyone's names that participated in the class, only if you want, of course. So if you want us to add your name to the pan, you can put your name on the chat box and we will add it, okay? And I see that Sara Gita put for us the email, and you have some information there that you'll be able to sign up and find out more information about relationship, either participating in sessions or even enrolling to become a coach. And this is like, wow, this is amazing. Okay, I see your names coming in already. So Chavi, when you're ready, we can share our screen and we'll see the video and get some of the Rebbe's intake on relationship and marriage and what advice the Rebbe gave Sara Carmeli with her struggles, which she shares beautifully.
Mrs. Sara Carmeli is an author and sought-after speaker and counselor. During the 1980s, as her commitment to Jewish observance deepened, she sought the Rebbe's guidance.
It was a very rocky situation. My husband did not like it. He did not want me to cover my hair. He did not want me to do all the other things come with it. So I wrote to the Rebbe a very self-righteous letter, big tzedekah, said, I decided I want to keep everything. My husband doesn't want, but isn't it true that I have to do, despite what he says? And I thought he's going to tell me, yeah, you do what you have to do. Doesn't matter what he says. He did not say that. He gave me a two-part answer that I have the letter. First part was, don't answer him back. Don't fight about religion. Such wise advice. I wish I'd have listened to it, because what happens when you fight about religion? Your spouse is not going to like you or religion because it's bringing division. Your children aren't going to be very happy for you to become religious because, hey, mom and dad are fighting about religion. We don't want that. The second part of the advice was what? Get somebody else to be mashpia on your husband, to influence your husband. It was such a relief. I'm not his rabbi, I'm his wife. So the moment I stopped nagging him, things worked out. But all along, all those years, when I found that it was so difficult because of the strife between me wanting to keep observant and he not liking it, and it is very painful when someone's in that situation, every single time I would go whining to the Rebbe, he would answer me always, and your husband? And what does your husband say? And what about your husband? What about me? How about me? I said, don't worry, he's going to get there. Just don't push. Don't argue about it. I had a choice where to go in the summer. It was a summer month in those early days. And I told the Rebbe I could either go to Israel on my own, and I wrote that I'll have no problems there because in Israel by myself, I could cover my hair, I don't have to go to the beach, I can eat in the right places. Or I could go with my husband to the Far East. He used to go traveling to Thailand on business. And if I would go with him by myself, I'll be in trouble because he's going to not want me to cover my hair. He will want me to go on the beach, and there's restaurants to go to that weren't the right places. I wrote a note to the Rebbe and I gave it in to the secretary, and the secretary told me, Mrs. Carmeli, run downstairs 770, the Rebbe's giving out, I don't remember what they were, what leaflets what he was giving out, maybe Tanya's or other things he was giving out. Run downstairs and wait online, you can make it just now if you run down. I was so happy I went running down the stairs, and I came to the line, and when it came to my turn, Rebbe turned around to give me whatever it was, and he looked at me and he told me very strongly, Bangkok with your husband. And people around said, what did the Rebbe say to you? I said, nothing, it's okay. And I did go to Bangkok with my husband because he told me to. And I realized coming back, my husband turned around and tells me on the plane, "Oh, well, I suppose I won't be seeing you for another year." And it dawned on me that here's me, the big, tzedekahs running around helping people. Charity begins at home. Give more time to your husband. That's what the Rebbe was trying to tell me.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I thought that was very, very sweet. Some advice today that I saw from her, and I just a different approach and just doing the work from yourself a little bit. So I thought it was very much connected to relationship than to this whole idea that we were talking about today. I want to mention that one of the reasons we were talking about Shalom Bayis is because we want Shalom among Am Yisrael. And we want to make sure that all the Jewish people are back home safe, all the hostages come back home, all our soldiers are safe. And we thought that starting with Shalom Bayis from within will radiate that light to the whole world, into the Jewish nation, and will bring Be'ezrat Hashem the Geula Shlema. I want to also thank my friend Chavi Marks, who is always helping me and always there for us when we do these Zooms and when I do the children program. So thank you you are a tzedekis, and thank you so much, always behind the scenes, but always helping. And I want to thank all of you for being with us here today and for taking your time. And hopefully you can share the recording with friends that were not here. And hopefully also you'll contact Sara, Gita, and be able to join relationships and make major changes for yourself and for your husbands and for your children. And thank you so much. It was amazing. Before we leave, I also want to mention that Chabad Learning Foundation has a fundraiser that's open until June. If you want to contribute, we do children's classes, seniors, women. Chavi posted the link in the chat. Anything helps. Tzedakah mekarevet et hageulah. And that's it, everyone. Thank you. And until next time, Sara, Gita, Soble, thank you so much for your time with 10 children and a home and so much to do and a full-time job. This is not easy. You gave us your time and we appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, everyone. Continue writing your names. I'll keep the Zoom open for a few more minutes so we can have your names. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. It was beautiful. Okay, everyone, have a good night. I'm going to be closing the Zoom, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Besorot tovot.